the candidates before we begin. The candidates will have 2 minutes for their opening statement, and then they will have 1 minute to answer each question. The candidates will be asked to stop when the time is up. They have the right to speak to all questions asked. At the end, they will have an additional 2 minutes for the closing statement. Opening statements will begin in the order in which the candidates filed, and closing statements will begin with the last candidate that filed and go back. The candidates are asked to talk about what they believe, think, and feel in answer to the question posed, not to what their opponents think, feel, believe, or have done in the past. The candidate's job is to tell us what they believe and why they deserve your vote. Your job as the audience is to listen carefully and decide which candidates you are going to support. I would like to ask that you respectfully refrain from any excessive exuberance for or against any particular candidate. As a reminder, this evening is being recorded for posting on the President's Forum website and Facebook group. Excerpts for these edited clips of this evening candidates forum may not be used for political purposes. The President's Forum consists of an executive board and board members from each of our Rockwood schools, PTO and PTAs. We've collected questions from this evening in an anonymous manner from those PTO and PTA members. Thank you to those who have submitted questions. We will be using those throughout the evening as a guide. Questions have been grouped together in order to cover all topics posed. In addition to our evening, we are including something new and rather exciting. So while preparing for this evening, we realized that we weren't hearing from the most important voices in our schools. They are the reason why we are here right now, and that's the students. So we have asked each of our high schools to pick a student and present questions to the candidates. Each student gathered topics that they felt represented their school and their community. Thank you to each of them, their teachers and their principals for working together to make it possible. Representing Lafayette High School is Julie Mahe. Say it again. Mahia. I tried to write it and it just, Mahia. We have Eureka High School, Nolan Ortnow, Marquette High School, Pranav Sriraman, and Rockwood Summit High School, Mary Corkery. Thank you guys for participating tonight. Our timekeeper will have the time, our timekeeper will time the opening and closing statements at 2 minutes, and the responses, remember, are 1 minute. She will hold up a card for 15 seconds when you are coming to the end. The President's Forum does not support or oppose any of the candidates. Instead, we are here to give all the candidates a voice this evening. I want to remind everyone that the purpose of this evening is to learn where each of the candidates stand on the issues presented so that we can be educated voters. So we will now begin with the opening statements, and the candidates for Rockwood School Board District of Education in ballot order are Lynn Mignette, Tom Dunn, Carrie Bockert, Tricia Katzfeid, Rich Wurzba, and Bob Cadigan. Lynn, we will go ahead and begin with you.
Good evening. Good evening, and whoops.
Everyone hear me okay? Oh, this is good. Okay. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces and have students in the room. I think this is an absolutely great idea. I forgot my written script tonight, so I'm going to see if I can do this. I want to talk about how much I've appreciated attending the President's Forum's meetings over the years. It has been one of the best ways for me to connect with the community. So thank you, Rockwood, for having this opportunity and having this forum for people to come together. And thank you for your time and talents for supporting Rockwood. So I'm going to spend my 2 minutes, because I only have 2, right? Talking about my passion for students, staff, and families. During my time on the board, I have visited numerous classrooms alongside principals, curriculum leaders, superintendents, and fellow board members. I have seen students perform, I've heard bands play, I have heard great things, I've seen student leadership, and one thing that I have always come away with is the power of the student-teacher relationship. That is the driving force in student success, and that is the heart of Rockwood. So as a board member, I'm going to commit to you that I will make sure that that relationship thrives and moves forward. I'm going to do this in a couple different ways, or a number of different ways actually. One is supporting the superintendent through our budgeting process, through our developing fair and balanced policies, and making sure that we have community engagement to promote unity.
Thank you, Lynn.
That's all this up.
Thank you. Next is Tom Dunn.
Okay, good. Wow. You're sabotaging me. All right.
And your 2 minutes are
Are we
up.
good? Dang! Wow. All right, so I want to thank the PTO for hosting the forum. As you know, I'm Tom Dunn, and I have been a Rockwood resident since 2011, when my wife and family moved from the Chicago area. We selected Rockwood because of the schools and district reputation. My 3 daughters have attended or are still attending Rockwood schools through the Early Childhood Center, elementary, middle, and high schools. I served on the Board of Education from 2019 to 2022 with my primary belief in order to understand the system and make changes, you need to become a part of it. During my term, I witnessed many positives as well as challenges within the district. If elected, my priorities would continue to be student achievement, school facilities and security, policies and regulations, and fiscal management. I am a huge advocate of public schools and what they offer the community. I also will continue to support all teachers. 2 of my sisters are public school teachers, and make sure that they have the tools to succeed. I am not seeking donations for my campaign. I didn't last time either. As being a part of the board is something that I want to do and serve the kids of the community. We need to make sure that we secure Rockwood's future. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Carrie? We believe in teamwork.
I obviously was not in theater.
Your button's not going on, so I don't know if you're charged. Well, the light's not on.
Well, now it's green.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Is it supposed to be green or red?
Green. Tech support.
It was working prior to this. I promise
Did you
we.
sabotage me?
And your 2 minutes are up.
That was
And I do not have a lobby.
Here you
Okay.
go.
Okay, we'll do team.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. I would like to thank Rockwood PTO President's Forum for having this event tonight. It is great to see so many faces that I recognize in this room, and I want to thank you all for the service that you give to our kids in our community. My name is Carrie Bonkert, and I want to be your next Rockwood Board of Education Director. I'm a proud mom of 2 boys, Brittany and Ben. My husband Jason and I are very proud Rockwood products. For the past 15 years, I have been an active volunteer in Rockwood, just like all of you sitting in this room. I actually served as co-president of this actual group a few years back. My involvement in my boys' schools was simple. I wanted and continue to want to support the students, teachers, and schools. I know that resonates with many of you sitting here, and that's why you're here. I was the PTO president of Pond, and I'm currently the PTO president of Eureka High School. I've chaired committees that have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for our schools. I've rolled up my sleeves and helped in classrooms and school-wide events, and I've co-chaired the successful Citizens for Property campaign. In 2017, I was honored by being chosen a Rockwood Rose Award recipient. I've spent my entire life in Rockwood. I attended Westridge, Selvage, and Lafayette. I've seen Rockwood grow and become a leading school district in our area and state. And when I graduated from a zoo with an elementary education degree, I knew that the only place I wanted to teach was right here in Rockwood. And during my 12-year tenure as a teacher, I was awarded Teacher of the Year twice. I believe we have a lot to be proud of in our district, and I'm running for the school board to continue to give back to our community. I have a proven track record as a leader in our school communities, and I can help unite our district in a positive direction.
Thank you, Carrie. And Tricia?
Hi. It's green. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Sorry. Hi, I'm Tricia Katzby. My husband and I moved here from Springfield, Missouri almost 10 years ago when I was transferred from the Missouri Army National Guard to Jefferson Barracks. We were looking at the school areas because my oldest was 1 year old, and we knew that we wanted to live in Rockwood based off the school's reputation. My oldest is now in 5th grade, attending Eureka Elementary, and she'll go to LaSalle next year. I have 2 younger children, one in 3rd grade and one in 1st. I have 23 years of total military service in the Missouri Army National Guard with almost 20 active, with 3 deployments overseas. I am currently enrolled in Maryville University, where I'm finally completing my HR management degree, but I also have a certificate in leadership and workforce development from completing the highest enlisted academy in the military, the Sergeant Major Academy. Within the military, I serve as a credentialed victim advocate for sexually assaulted victims within our military service. And I also am a member of the Missouri National Guard Personnel Advisory Council, where I revise, modify, and create policies within the Guard. I just want to say, like, Carrie got me a little teary-eyed with her opening, but I'm here to serve the parents and the students within the Rockwood School District, as well as our stakeholders. And as much as I have signed up to volunteer, I have not been able to because of scheduling conflicts and everything. But I look forward to serving our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Rich?
Testing 1, 2, 3. All right. Start. All right. My name is Rich Wurzman. I'm a businessman, and I'm a father of 3 young boys that go to Babler Elementary. Purposely moved to Rockwood in 2012 because that's where we wanted to raise our family. First son was born in 2013, and we realized we wanted to go live by Babler. And we hunted for a house. We found a house right behind Babler, and that's where one of our houses are right now. But Babler reputation is what we came here for. And I love the reputation. Reputations are great. But I also see some problems that need to be fixed. It's not all puppies and rainbows. As a father, I want my kids to do better than me. The bar's a little low, but my job is to push them to be better than me. And I want to be a board member to help things out, help out things financially, and move, besides reputation, academically, move Rockwood up. I don't know if we have all seen the MAP scores over the last 10 years. They've been on a decline for 10 years. We could turn that around here in Rockwood. We have all the tools necessary, great staff, great teachers. I guess we just need some direction and some fresh blood on board. And I'd love to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And Bob?
Let me start by saying, can you hear me without the mic?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that because I was taught a loud voice ages ago, which I keep getting reminded of at home. First, I'd like to start by thanking the PTO organization and Wildwood Middle School for hosting us here. It's a pleasure to be here with the other candidates to talk to all of you tonight. As you know, my name is Bob Cadigan. I'm a West Point grad, regular Army officer, and currently corporate executive. You may know I am also married to a teacher from this building, Denise Cadigan. Between us, we have a combined family that includes a high school student here in Rockwood, a middle school student, and a grandchild in the elementary school system. If you've seen any of my campaign literature, you will know that I'm focusing on 4 things: unity, transparency, academic excellence, and finances. I'd like to take a moment, though, to talk about unity, because that seems to be a theme we need to address here in Rockwood. If I could speak for a moment on this, I'd like to emulate 2 former great Americans, Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. For anyone growing up in the 80s, you would know that they were very fierce political adversaries and very close friends. Many times, Tip came over to the White House for a beer with Ronald Reagan. I would like to encourage all of us on the board, whether new members of the board or the existing board, to emulate these 2 great Americans. We need to rise above partisan politics and focus on what's important, the Rockwood kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we'll begin the question and answer period. If you need me to repeat the question, please feel free to ask. Lynn, we're going to start with you. You ready? It's common for Board of Education members to have been involved in PTO during their children's years in Rockwood. How have you been involved in the PTO during your time in Rockwood? And what do you believe the role of PTO should be in our schools?
When we moved back to the Rockwood School District, I think it's been almost 30 years ago, I was very involved at Crestview and at Kerrs Mill at the time. And then as my daughters went to Marquette High School, I became too involved probably in the graduation safe night or whatever it was called at the time. And it was a lot of fun, and I met great people. And I was there with the kids and experienced their joy in graduation and what was happening afterwards. And of course then, as I moved into this position as a board member, I have been at these meetings and I have attended other PTO meetings. The role of a PTO member is just vital. When I actually think back to my earlier days, I was PTO president twice in different states, and I did amazing things in that role, equal to what I've done as a professional.
Thank you, Lynn. And Tom?
All right. Well, the 11 years I've been here, I have not been on the PTO. I did form the EHS Wildcats Aquatics Booster Club. I also was the Rockwood Swim Club Vice President and President. But that does not discount the fact that I see the important role that the PTO does. The role of the PTO is very important as they are the engine behind the district. They fundraise, they become champions of what the district does, and the district also looks to them for feedback. So therefore, the PTO is an extended arm, a volunteered extended arm of everything that the district does, and it emulates them. So that's what I got to say.
Thank you. Carrie?
A mess. I'm so sorry. Okay, hold it down.
Okay, so where do I start? The role of a PTO. First of all, I felt strongly when I left the classroom to get involved when my kids started at Rockwood Early Childhood. So that's where I started my PTO journey. But you all know that when parents are involved, kids are more successful. And so that's why I became involved. Got suckered in kindergarten year to trivia night. How many of you were a trivia night chair? Yep. Chaired Carnival at Pond. I did 2 tours of duty as PTO president there. I chaired staff appreciation, direct donations. I probably am forgetting a few things there. Moved to middle school here at Wildwood. chaired VP fundraising, school store. As I said, I'm the PTO president at Eureka. I was the senior class president, chaired my oldest son's senior celebration, and have served on numerous district committees as a PTO representative.
Thank you, Carrie. And Tricia?
Can you repeat the exact verbiage of the question?
Yes. It's common for Board of Education members to have been involved in PTO during their child's years in Rockwood. How have you been involved in the PTO during your time in Rockwood? And what do you believe the role of PTOs should be in our schools?
Like I said, I have volunteered my service whenever I can. I've signed up for multiple events, and I attend those whenever I can. My husband and I are both in the military, so our schedule is very active, and whenever I can. I believe the role of the PTO is to get parents involved and provide service and events when schools cannot staff those events, to make sure that all of the community is involved in the school's events, without saying other words, but to bring everyone together and make it more like a family.
Thank you. Microphone.
All right. With schools, I didn't pay attention until the COVID things came out, and I started paying more attention to what's going on in our schools. I started becoming a little more active, and then last fall, I ran for COVI vice president for PTO, missed by a few votes. Otherwise, I attended a few events. I participated in it with the PTO, but it's definitely a good group to have with our schools, no doubt. That's it.
Thank you. Bob?
Being the proud parent or the proud spouse of a Wildwood band director, I have not volunteered in the PTO, but I have volunteered. I have held several xylophones and drum sets in and out of Busch Stadium. My fact is certain that I've loaded at least 3 full orchestra sets into our minivan and out. I've sorted papers, cleaned mouthpieces, and waited with students for their parents to pick them up after a trip. And yes, I did survive several chartered bus trips, but only barely. PTOs are a vital link in helping the board and the administration reach out to the community, as well as hearing from the community on the pulse out in our network. They are vital for us to survive as a group.
Thank you. Okay, the next question. And we're going to start with Tom on this one. And keep going. How do you describe Rockwood to your friends and family?
It's one of the top school districts in the state. We have a lot to be proud of. Obviously there's, with all the success that we've had, there are some challenges, but I think it's a great community. We are very large, which sometimes is a blessing and a curse, but outside of that, I tell people I love the community, I love the people, the teachers are fantastic, administration, everybody's top notch. So and that's God's honest truth. That's why we moved here.
Thank you. Carrie?
Gosh, I'm an idiot.
That we all heard.
Breathe until someone else touches it. That's my husband. Thank you. So how would I describe Rockwood? Home. It's home for me. Best district in the state, top district in the nation. We have innovative curriculum. I love talking to people about ant and geometry and construction. When we send our kids to college and I tell people, hey, kids graduate from Rockwood with an associate's degree, it's pretty amazing. We have amazing activities, whether it's theater, sports, student council, a lot of diversity. We have 4 quadrants. They're very unique, but they're really awesome. and a uniqueness. And we have amazing teachers.
Thank you. Tricia?
It's my turn to get a little teary-eyed. Like I said, I attended 3 deployments. My last one was in 2019 and 2020. Prior to leaving on deployment, it was the end of my daughter's first grade year going into second grade, and I asked for support going into that next year from the school to allow me to meet my daughter or my children's teachers for the next year, just so I could have that relationship. So I knew if I contacted them, I could know who they were. So they gave me all the support I needed throughout the year. And when I describe Rockwood, I describe, like I said, as family, because they're the people you can be most vulnerable with your children. So.
Thank you, Tricia. Rich?
I love Rockwood. That's why I moved here. And I brag a lot about it, especially Babbler, because that's where my boys go. So I talk about Babbler all the time. And as in community, the community is Rockwood. It's a safe place for my kids to run around and grow and hopefully stay a part of this community. And if not, be successful somewhere else. Rockwood is a solid community, and I want like I said, the kids that graduate from here and stay here be good, responsible citizens to help Rockwood stay on top. But yeah, I'm a cheerleader.
Thank you. And Bob?
We moved here on purpose when Denise and I got married. I tell my friends that I live in Rockwood, and my high property values reflect the stellar achievements of this school district. We do in one district what takes the rest of the county 4 districts to combine to do. Obviously, I love the teachers here, or at least one in particular. And I'm rather fond of several of the students as well, 3 that I can mention. I tell my friends I love living here, and I wouldn't move.
Thank you. And Lynn?
Well, I like to say we are Rockwood. We are the best district ever. And when we moved back to St. Louis, we moved here because of Rockwood. And I am so proud that when my daughter and her family moved to St. Louis from Atlanta, they came to Rockwood because that's where they want to raise their family, and it's going so well. But beyond my own family, when I'm out in the schools, I see kids thriving. I see kids happy. I love the students. I love talking to them and me learning from the students. And I see the excitement that they have in their classwork. Our teaching staff is phenomenal. We're not the most highly paid districts, but teachers really want to work here, and that makes me proud. We have innovative practices, and we meet all kids' needs. I think we're doing a great job, and we just need to continue to let our community know that we are Rockwood.
Thank you. All right. So speaking of the amazing students, we're going to go ahead and start with our students. And Pranav, you're first.
Do I come over there?
Yes, you sure do.
By the way, I have a head on green.
And Carrie, this question will start with you.
Carrie, what would you like the students to know about you?
Well, I'm a pretty good cook. My family says so. I'm not good at baking. I love to read. I love to travel. Obviously, I love to volunteer. And I love our community. I love our community, and I love to support kids. And I think that's really important. You need to love kids to be part of Rockwood Board of Education. And I think that anyone that knows me knows I love kids. And thank you for doing this tonight.
Lynn, what would you like?
The same question, Tricia, it'll be the same question. What would you like students to know about you?
I love, outside of my job, coming home and being with my kids and taking them around to all of their events is probably my happiest time ever. When I was deployed, because my third deployment was my only one with my children, I told everyone, like, I can't wait to go home and be that soccer mom. So all the kids' events, anytime I get to see any of the kids be happy and show their excitement for excelling in anything is probably my happiest moment. Even with my soldiers, because to me they are kids, because when I graduated, I could have been their mom. And seeing them grow as future leaders makes me incredibly proud and happy.
Rich?
I love being a dad. I love being a dad, and I thank God every day that I'm a father. And I always tell people I'm the best dad on this side of Mississippi, and I always stand by that. And then I would like to lay claim to fame that me and my boys invented zombie tag at Velasquez Park, and I think it's a big thing now. So that started with us Wiersma boys. And then when it comes to children, for some reason, when I'm at a park or something, and I enjoy this, I end up playing with 20 or 30 kids, zombie tag or something like that. I really enjoy children, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running for school board.
Bob?
I'd like the students of Rockwood to know that I understand what it's like to be a student. Up until I was in 5th grade, I was one of those C and D students that parents complain about. And then I had Miss Gately. And somehow, in the first quarter of my 5th grade year, I went from C's and D's to A's. I know what it's like when you meet that one teacher who connects with you. And that took the rest of my career forward. And I certainly hope, as a board member, I can help ensure we have those teachers stay here at Rockwood. Thank you.
Lynn?
I want the students to know that I am here for you. My work on the board the past 6 years has been about one thing and one thing only, and that's student success across all areas, not just academically, but also giving you a feeling of belonging. I've worked really hard, and I want you to see someone who will spend lots of hours to get the job done for you. One of my upcoming focuses, if I'm lucky enough to be, or fortunate enough to be back on the board, is to really focus on the student voice, because our system exists for the student. So we need to ensure your success.
And Tom?
All right, this is kind of twofold. So what would I like the students to know about me? Well, I love my wife, daughter, and watch my kids in all their activities. I like to travel and scuba dive. I'm a Misha swim official. All Chicago sports fan, which is probably not very popular here. I bake all the pies at the holidays, so yes, I actually do like to bake in the kitchen. If I wasn't doing my chosen career, I'd be a high school history teacher and swim coach. Student achievement is a major focus of mine, part of which some of the things that, what Rockwood does is they prepare all students with a well-rounded education and prepare all the graduates for either college or immediate career in the trades with our partnership with the South Tech. Our ACT scores are great. They could be better, but we're one of the top in the St. Louis region. And with that, I'll stop.
Tricia, what are your goals for the Board of Education?
My goals for the Board of Education is to make sure we put academics first. I want to for my children that I see personally, I see that we have put in a little extra focus on other activities or priorities, and I just want to make sure that we are putting our focus on the children's academics, but also to evaluate all of the current policies and making sure that we have all of the focus that we need to within those policies to make sure we are evaluating them at the current level that they are.
Rich?
Number one goal is academics. We need to focus on academics. We need to stop focusing on some of the political agendas, gender ideology, and some of that other stuff. Our academic scores, again, I said before, have gone down for 10 years. We need to get them back up with the math testing. We need to get our students better prepared when they're leaving our school. Rather fail here, where you're safe and taken care of, and then failing out in the real world. I have, through my business, I deal with a lot of young men, and they're not ready. And it's getting worse. So I do not want anyone else to be in that position. And on top of that, so we have transparency. Transparency is needed. And I never knew about the scores, the math scores going down. And then safety, and I'm glad to hear what Dr. Kane said about safety. That is a tremendous move forward. I'd love to learn more about that. Thank you.
Bob, I'd like to work with Dr. Kane and the rest of the board to continue to improve our academic excellence. I've noticed that he was rather proud of those scores that he talked about earlier today, and so am I. I'd like to promote more transparency between the board, the administration, and the community, so we can cut down on some of the rumors that were also mentioned earlier. And finally, with a lot of corporate budget experience, I'd like to help engage with the Rockwood Financial Department and ensure Rockwood stays on a sound financial footing over my term as a director. Thank you.
Lynn?
The Board of Education has 5 main functions, and
The Board of Education has 5 main functions, and I think the goals for the board should really be around these functions. One is to set the strategic plan, or to set the goals for the district for the strategic planning process. So that's something the board needs to be involved in. It's also to ensure policies are up to date and meeting the needs of our students and staff and our community. One of the biggest things that Board of Education does is to hire and evaluate our superintendent, and to make sure that that process is going well and that the superintendent's priorities are in line with our strategic planning process. Of course, having a balanced budget is so important because we need the money to make sure we get everything done that we want to get accomplished and to support our students. And it's also advocacy for our community and our students.
Tom?
So the question was goals, correct?
That's
So-
correct.
So the Board of Education Administration, my goals are so that the Board of Education Administration earn the respect of the entire community again. We need to learn to agree to disagree on issues instead of being polarizing. The last few years have been very challenging for the district, and always focus on student achievement and doing what we can for teachers. Also, as a previous board director, I really enjoyed learning about all the departments, policies, and components of running one of the largest districts in the state of Missouri. It is important to be a voice for parents in the community as well as a board member who can ask good questions and challenge status quo. I also want to be a resource to connect parents and students who need specific help in finding and understanding district policies or programs.
And Carrie?
My number one goal is to put students first. I think that's where we all need to be centered on the Board of Education. And by that I mean, we are going to be experiencing a teacher and staff shortage in the United States. We're seeing it on the news. As Dr. Kane says, we're Rockwood, and we can ride a little bit on our laurels. However, we need to change the climate in our district so that we can continue to recruit the best teachers and staff members here. Provide common sense leadership. And what I mean by that is listening to both sides, not pitting both sides against each other, and working collaboratively as a team. And then finally, securing our future through fiscal responsibility, high academic standards, where all of our kids can thrive.
All right, thank you. This next question you guys pretty much covered, so I said maybe we should re-ask the question. Julie, you're next. Next is it Trisha? No, I'm sorry, it's Rich.
Good evening. Rich, from attendance to library books, parents and guardians still make major decisions for their students' lives in school. But there are certain decisions high school students want to make on their own. What kinds of decisions do you believe should be under parental control? And what kinds of decisions should be left up to older students?
This is in regards to books.
In regards to everything.
Well, one, as you grow older, you make more decisions. But as a parent, you give your children you give them boundaries because you love them. And you have to maintain those boundaries. And then once you step out, you make more decisions. But your parents and the schools are keeping you safe with certain boundaries. And some of them should not be crossed. That's it.
Sorry,
Bob, go ahead.
You know, when a student's young, the parents sit down and make most of the decisions about what courses they're going to take. When you get into high school, I found being on my third child going to high school, that it's more of a give and take conversation. And certainly as a freshman or even an eighth grader, the parents may be saying more, but as a senior, I would expect the students probably saying more about what they want to do. But ultimately, the balance there of what goes between the student and the parent is a choice for each family to make, not the Board of Education.
Lynn?
The parent-child relationship is the only relationship where separation is actually the goal. So I see the high school years as the years where parents pull back and allow the student to make more and more of their own decisions, but with guidance and support and the foundation that has been built previously to that. I think that it is sometimes a hard time for young people, the high school years, and guidance is certainly needed. But it's that balance between the parent and the child and working together for the next phase of the young person's life.
Tom?
Decisions of students, class choices, activity choices, friend choices, but should always seek parents for guidance. That's it.
Carrie?
So when my oldest hit high school, she said, my mom said, you are entering the most stressful years of your life. And I thought having a baby was stressful. It's a lot worse when your kiddo takes a car out with their friends on a Friday night. So our role as parents is to allow our kids to thrive, but also provide a safety net when they fail, because they're going to. And I'm a strong believer that we should let our kids fail, before we send them off to college. And for kids, I think you should have a voice and choice in your education, whether it comes to classes you attend, books you're reading in your classroom, how you complete a project, your voice as far as how the school is ran. Dr. Kane, I know, values your voice, and I would too, in the Board of Education.
Tricia?
So I feel as parents, it's our job to make those, for when our children get older, to make those left and right limits. This is for them to learn their boundaries, but also when they go outside those limits, there are consequences, and those consequences they have to face. I have learned best from failure and from making mistakes, so I feel like you only can learn when you make those mistakes and you fail. Especially as a military leader, that's how I have learned the best. So for our children and for my oldest, she's 11 going on 25, I started her young by failing just so she learns better. So I feel like our relationship with our children is the most vital relationship you can have, and to teach them.
All right, Bob. Lafayette student publication members wanted to bring to your attention what school safety means to us. As school shootings have continued to, unfortunately, increase across the nation, we're scared and not feeling entirely protected, even if Rockwood has worked to create better security in the district. Just like safety concerns, there are several other issues facing students on a daily basis that aren't fully understood by those who aren't in our position. How will you ensure you are involving students in your decisions and guaranteeing you truly understand what it is like to be in a student's shoes?
Several of our board members have already mentioned that they go to the classroom. And one of the things we should remind students of is that we have been in the classroom, all of us. We've been there. It may have been ages ago. I think we did use clay tablets when I was there. But we were there. Not all that much has changed, but some things have. We need to work with Dr. Kane as our superintendent on how we ensure the safety of all the students. Dr. Kane has already engaged organizations to review that, and I think he's going down the right path. But that's the role of the Board of Education, is to work with the superintendent to ensure he is then working with the administration to move us down that path. Thank you.
So I mentioned a little while ago about the student voice, and one of the things I've actually talked to Dr. Kane about is developing some type of student advisory for the board. I know some districts actually have students sit on the board. That might not work that well here because we have 4 high schools. So my goal would be to have a student advisory specifically for the board, so we would periodically hear from students, just as Dr. Kane goes out and talks to students. I think the board needs to have those one-on-one conversations with students. Because again, we serve you, and the best way we can do that is by hearing what you have to say to us and hearing about your experiences and what your hopes and dreams are.
Tom?
So the question was, how can you ensure that student voices are heard, correct? All right, so I have a sophomore in Lafayette, and so during the whole COVID thing, when I had 3 kids still in school here, I would always look to them to see how things were going in their classrooms and what the temperature was of all the students, etc. And I would kind of use that as a gauge of how the district was moving along. Lynn stole a little bit of my thunder with her last response, because I also thought of student at large, board member, rotating, or form a committee as well, because there are other school districts that do the same thing. And that would definitely ensure the fact that students are heard within Rockwood.
Carrie?
So we are an advocate for students as a Board of Education member. That's our primary role, to be your advocate. And so I think it's super important that we are visible in schools.
I'm not saying that you need to be on a first name basis, hey Carrie, hopefully maybe, but that you see us as a board of the schools, so we understand what's going on there. I know that we have principal advisory committees. I know we have superintendent advisory committees. I love the idea of a Board of Education advisory committee. And I also think that we really need to look at our postgraduate education surveys of kids that have gone through Rockwood schools and really look at the results of those surveys and how we can grow and improve as a district.
Tricia?
So, Tom and Lynn kind of said, we need to have like a student advisory council. We have those in the military. They're our lowest level. We get together and they call it the E4 Mafia, where they all talk about all the things we're doing bad as leaders. And I definitely think it would be great to have those student leadership groups at each high school or every level of schools where, because kids, they speak the truth. They tell us what we're doing bad every day. So why not have them in our schools where we could grow as help them grow as leaders and give them the safety concerns that they need. I do believe that there's several different forms of safety. There's the physical and the data safety that as our kids grow up, they are. Thank you.
Did everybody answer?
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Rich.
I agree with what was previously said. Plus what I plan on doing is going out and visiting. I'd love to visit every school, talk to students and teachers to get a pulse of what's going on. The best way to understand something is to go out and see it. So I'm going to go out and talk to teachers and talk to students and get some feedback that way. Hands on.
And for my last question, Lynn, as Board of Education candidates, you have a responsibility to ensure all students reach their full potential, as the mission statement says. However, we have seen times when board members make decisions based on personal beliefs or a political agenda. Should political beliefs be kept distant from school elections and/or decisions? Why or why not?
Repeat that question for me, please.
Should political beliefs be kept distant from school elections and/or decisions? Why or why not?
Political beliefs need to be kept separate from school decisions. As a board member, it is unethical to make a decision that is based on any type of affiliation with a special interest group. Board members must make decisions based on one thing only, and that is student success.
Thank you. Thomas?
Can you repeat that, because that was a mouthful?
Sorry. Should political beliefs be kept distant from school elections and/or decisions? Why or why not?
Yes, because local elections are supposed to be nonpartisan. If you put any political ideologies, whether it's special interest groups from, unions, NRA, any type of union or organization that will try to enforce influence. So by keeping it nonpartisan, it makes it a lot easier for us to get the work done and achieve the work that's necessary.
Carrie?
So one of my goals is to remove politics from education. And like others have said, this is a nonpartisan race. We should not be identifying with one particular party. And I believe in local control. We live here, we live in this community, and we should be making decisions that impact our kids and their futures.
Tricia?
I agree, like Carrie said, that one of my goals as well was to remove politics from the school. It doesn't belong in it. Our kids aren't involved in politics, so we shouldn't bring it into the schools with them. I don't believe that any political belief should be what drives you to in this position especially, to make policy or provide guidance to our schools because of our beliefs.
I like to agree with what Tom was going on. And we need to take politics out. That's what we need to take some endorsements out. The MRNEA and the NEA are big political organizations, and they should not be involved with our politics. Thank you.
Bob?
In one of his presidential debates with Walter Mondale, President Reagan said that he had instructed his staff to remove partisan goals whenever they briefed him on an issue, but rather to brief him whether the issue was good or bad, morally right or morally wrong. I hope that as this new board convenes, it can address all issues at the school board with the same level of fairness and adultness shown by our 40th president. That doesn't mean we don't have to address those issues as a board to ensure we're communicating effectively to the community at large. But we should focus on the kids, the schools, and the taxpayers and get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I did.
All right. I do want to first mention that I'm kind of serving as Eureka's conduit here, but I did not write these questions. These are courtesy of the Eureka Speech and Debate team, as well as Ms. Shellhorn at Eureka. So my first question is for Tom, we're starting with. How do you feel about increasing the pay of critical support staff such as bus drivers, custodians, and food service workers?
Everybody always wants to try and increase pay. Rockwood has a budget of which 89% goes towards payroll. That means from the superintendent all the way down to the cafeteria worker or bus driver. Bus drivers are one of the high, we pay the bus drivers, they're one of the highest paid in the St. Louis area. All of them have contracts that they go under as well. As far as increasing the pay, we are strapped because 75% of our budget comes from personal and property taxes, whereas then another 15% come from the state sales tax algorithm, and then another 10% comes from federal title programs of the Department of Education. So unfortunately, the amount of budget we have, without potentially, we'd have to scrub and look at the budget and see where wasteful spending is at in order to accommodate higher pay for all those positions.
Thank you. Karen?
So I know last year we were looking at trying to pass a proposition that unfortunately didn't pass. So I believe that probably is something that in the near future we're going to need to look at. And I believe as a district we need to think outside of the box because we do have a staffing shortage. We have shortages of substitutes. We have shortages, of cafeteria workers. So how can we recruit them? How can we retain them? So yes, I am in support of making it a more competitive wage, but we're going to have to do a little digging on it.
Thank you. Tricia?
So they say speak what you know. So again, military experience. So like in any occupation you have your support staff and you have the teachers, and I always like bring in the education piece of it when I describe the military, how the military process things, because you can go at each level. So every portion has a military or a support staff, and then every occupation has like the big people. So in the military, it's like the trainers, the operations section, but nothing can survive without those support staff. And I believe that, and I heard from someone when I was canvassing about how Summit has a great bus system because they have a hub and all these buses go out. So I believe that we can make things better if we evaluate the processes and evaluate the budget to find those resources to give out to them.
Rich?
Well, I've been in business for a long time, failing and succeeding. I know budgets, and there's always something that can be cut from the budget. There's always ways to make things more efficient, use our money more wisely. And I'd like to get my hands on this budget to see what we can do, not just for the bus drivers and so on, but also for our teachers. I'd like to get some higher pay with that as well. But there's always something that can be done with the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
Thank you. Everyone wants a raise. Frankly, so do I. Rockwood has a maintenance issue. As was already mentioned, Proposition P failed previously, and so we're going to have to figure out how to come up with some significant dollars. Coming from the corporate world, I understand that salary is not the only lever we can pull to attract and retain good people. The board, composed of whatever members are on it after the election, will need to work aggressively with the HR and finance departments to explore what is in the art of the possible and see what we can do to help not just the support staff, but all staff and teachers here at Rockwood. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn?
Would you repeat the question again?
Yes, absolutely. The question is, how do you feel about increasing the pay of critical support staff, such as bus drivers, custodians, and food service workers?
Well, the budget development process is complicated, and it is a process of balancing different priorities and looking at what your incoming finances are and the different areas. And as what Tom said, the majority of our budget does go to personnel. So that would take some sitting down, looking at the budget and seeing where we have our shortages, where we would maybe increase in pay would help us with some of those shortages, and just putting it all together. So it's always a consideration. The group that you talked about are crucial to our students as well as our other staffing needs.
Thank you. This next question is going to start with Carrie. In light of recent legislation being proposed in the Missouri legislature, what steps will you take to protect all students, particularly those of the LGBTQ+ community?
I'll say one simple sentence. All students should be able to come to every single one of our schools and feel safe, secure, welcome, so that they can thrive. As a Board of Education member, we have to follow state law, so that's part of it, but all students should feel safe and secure at our schools.
Thank you. Tricia?
I completely agree. I serve our country, so everyone has rights. So I completely support everyone having a right to be who they want to be. Clear as that.
Thank you. Rich?
I don't know much more I could add to that. But yes, all students, treat them all equally. Where everybody has dreams, and we should help everybody achieve their dreams.
Thank you. Bob?
I'd like to answer your question by addressing it as part of inclusion. Inclusion is a conscious organizational effort and practice in which different groups or individuals having different backgrounds are culturally and socially accepted and welcome. An inclusive culture makes people feel respected and valued for who they are. I want to support all efforts at Rockwood to make sure Rockwood is a safe and secure environment for all students, faculty, administration, and support staff. Anything less is unacceptable. We, the board, will do that by providing leadership, both within our board itself and our support to Dr. Kane. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn?
As Carrie said, it's pretty simple. All means all. My lens has always been about inclusion of all students. Is where my work has been for the past almost 40 years now. And it is so important that we all feel valued and we have a sense of belonging. I think the work that Dr. Kane talked about earlier with building a culture of dignity and belonging will be crucial for our students, our staff, and our families and our community.
Thank you. Tom?
Rockwood works very hard to provide all students a quality education. When the state gets involved, then Rockwood always adjusts. That's it.
This next question is going to start with Tricia. And a similar question was raised by a previous student, but I think that partially this highlights how prominent of an issue this is to students, and also I think it has the opportunity to be taken a little bit more deeper and with a little bit more specificity. The question is, what plans would you suggest to help increase student safety on school property in the wake of recent tragedies?
As stated on our last forum, I believe that we should have armed professionals at every school, not our resource officers floating around, but at every school, whether it be a private company or another police officer, but someone who has the ability to protect our kids.
Thank you. Rich?
Every school needs, what Tricia said, every school needs to be protected. Someone with a gun in every school to keep our kids safe. And I'm looking forward to hearing what Dr. Kane, it sounds really good what he's putting together. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about that.
Thank you. Bob?
As mentioned, Dr. Kane is going to be presenting a proposal tomorrow to the school board. I look forward to hearing what that proposal has within it. I think the board needs to listen to what security professionals put together and recommend for our organization, because frankly, most folks on the board are not security professionals. I look with interest, or wait with interest, to hear the full proposal tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn?
I look forward to hearing more about Dr. Kane's proposal of increased security in our district, and I look forward to voting for it tomorrow night. And I think the other thing we need to think about is what we can be doing in other areas to make kids feel safe and secure and feeling a sense of connectivity. And a number of years ago, we did that. When Dr. Canos was here, we talked about every student needs a champion in the district, someone that they can go to, rely on, share, and also to be that trusted adult. I think that's something we could do at that level as well.
Thank you. Tom?
For the past 11 years, I've been in the security industry and have spoken to a lot of school districts that have questions on how to make their schools safer. I had the opportunity to meet and hear from the founder of Safe Schools for Alex. He lost his son at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School massacre in Parkland, Florida. Based on the information that he has shared from his research over the past 5 years, I am against teachers carrying weapons in schools and classrooms. However, I fully support a full-time school resource officer that is armed at every school. So Dr. Kane stole some of my thunder earlier.
They're doing that, aren't they?
This is supported, yes they are. It seems like it's a habit tonight. This is supported by the studies through Safe Schools for Alex. Rockwood should also take full advantage of almost $2 billion of grants available on schoolsafety.gov. I also recommend that the Director of Security brief administration and the Board of Education on if they are implementing the low-cost, no-cost, immediate implementable school safety tactics such as schools enforcing single point of entry.
Thank you. Carrie?
I believe that Rockwood should continue their 4E training that they do with staff members. I think that it's extremely valuable for staff members to be trained with that. I was thrilled to hear Dr. Kane's initiative, and if I were sitting on the board, I would vote yes for it. Again, collaboration with law enforcement. I think we need to listen to the professionals. And the other part, as far as safety, I think we need to address some of the issues. A common thread I've been hearing when I've been out knocking on doors and talking to stakeholders is bullying, specifically in our middle schools. I've heard that a lot when I've been talking to stakeholders, and I think that that's something that we could maybe have a conversation. One last thing, when we do have an issue, and it might just be a joke, a prank, but we should still take it serious, and we should come back, bring the kids together, and convene of how it made them feel and what we could do better.
Thank you.
Good evening. Trisha, my first question is for you. What would you say to students who feel like they're... Rich, my first question is for you. What would you say to students who feel like their communities are marginalized or underrepresented in Rockwood?
Well, in Rockwood, we like to treat everybody equally. And if they're feeling that they should be addressed with their counselor or so on. But I do not believe in dividing people by skin color or race or anything like that, with certain programs. I like to keep Rockwood united. But there's some of those programs, like CRT and DEI that was mentioned earlier, I'm definitely not in favor of. But on taking care of kids, that's what our counselors for, and social workers in the school. That's it.
Thank you. Bob?
I already gave an answer about inclusion, so I'm not going to repeat that same answer. But I will highlight the difference between equity and equality. I don't believe we need to treat every student exactly the same. When I was growing up, we had intermediate, advanced, and challenge reading classes. We didn't treat every student the same. We need to ensure we are addressing the needs of all of our students so that they do feel included in our organization and feel safe and secure here, so that they have the opportunity to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn?
I'm going to ask you to repeat the question one more time.
What would you say to students who feel like their communities are marginalized or underrepresented in Rockwood?
Well, we spoke earlier about inclusion, and Bob talked about equity, and equity is making sure that every student have what they need to be successful, really. I think that as a community, we need to have some hard conversations. Again, I'm going to go back to the upcoming work with the culture of dignity and belonging, and how that will, hopefully that will have impact. We need to have courageous conversations with each other, and we need to continue to be respectful of everyone at all times, and open our ears and our hearts and listen to each other.
Thank you. Tom?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion should happen naturally in all facets of society. It's not the district's job to seek out ways to make the communities we serve more racially diverse. The only way that can be achieved is by the residents of the community and the pool of qualified job candidates interviewing for positions. Fundamental academics in the classroom should not take a back seat to ensuring everyone has the same outcome, but the district will provide all tools necessary for teachers and students to have the best shot at achieving their goals. The district does a very good job offering a well-rounded education to all its students, and while everyone wants to be included or join in activities, and Rockwood has an amazing variety of sports and academic activities for many students.
Thank you. Carrie?
So it's a proven fact, if kids do not feel welcome at their school, they are not going to thrive or be academically successful. So I think that we need to look at our culture, and we need to focus on creating a culture in our schools and in our district with dignity and respect. One thing I do want to address, the test scores came out, it looked pretty good. But we have some room to grow with our marginalized students. There is an achievement gap, and we need to look at that achievement gap and how can we support those students that need extra academic help to succeed.
Thank you, Tricia. I agree with what Tom said, that it should come naturally to everyone. We should not have to teach how to be a good person to everyone. It should come from the parents. The parents should teach them how to be good human beings. I was also talking to a teacher about a couple of their students who made it to the gifted program. She said one of their students who missed the cutoff by, don't remember the exact amount, but was very, very like a percent or 5 points away from making it. And then they gave they did not let that person in, but they let a person in just based off their race or ethnicity or whatever. So I don't believe that we should be excelling our marginal students just based off that, but we should be promoting excellence in every person.
I'd like to be respectful of the evening and the time, and she does have one more question, but it is past 8:30. Are you guys okay to go? All right, just want to make sure.
Thank you. Bob, my next question is for you. How much control do you believe the Board of Education and district administration should have over the materials being taught in schools?
Essentially what you're asking is how much control should the Board of Education have over the curriculum? Ultimately, the Board of Education is responsible for approving the curriculum and therefore has complete authority over it. Having said that, the curriculum should be developed with input from parents, from teachers, and from the administration, and then be presented to the board, as it is today predominantly, for approval. But the ultimate authority for the curriculum rests with the Board of Education. They own that responsibility.
Thank you. Lynn?
I believe your question was about the board and administration, correct? Okay, so we have a very extensive process to approve curriculum with lots and lots of input, opportunities for input from our stakeholders. And that's crucial. And I think it's a joint effort. Yes, the board eventually approves the curriculum, but after it goes through a number of different steps to gather that input. It should be reflective of our student needs, and sometimes what we hear from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Those pieces all play into it. It is a joint partnership for us to make those decisions together. And someone mentioned local control before, and I want to highlight that as well. The Rockwood community should be determining what Rockwood curriculum looks like.
Thank you. Tom?
The Board of Education, the school district, the teachers, and parents should be working together on what is most important, educating the children. Rockwood's curriculum committees are formed by administration and invited representative parents to decide what classes and materials will be taught. Successful curriculum development is a partnership between all stakeholders, including parents. Parents should be able to access materials that are put in front of students, but we should also be hiring top educators and administrators who have the ultimate responsibility to prepare lesson plans that adhere to agreed upon curriculum. Student input regarding classes is also valuable. The student body can express the need for subject matter that is important to their educational future.
Thank you. Gary?
So I believe Rockwood has a great process for developing our curriculum, and being a former teacher in Rockwood, we are looked at as a beacon or a guide by many other districts, how we set our curriculum and our standards within our curriculum. So, I would continue to support that as well. One thing regarding our curriculum, I think that we can have some conversations as a board with outside professionals, agencies, what have you. For instance, the trades. Not every kid is college bound. That's not the track they're going to go on. So maybe having some collaboration when we look at our next district school improvement plan and see how we can collaborate more to increase that within our curriculum.
Thank you. Tricia? So I completely agree with what Bob said and what Tom said, but I also want to say, like, our job is oversight, to look at to monitor and evaluate how those curriculums are built, not to micromanage or dig in. Yes, we should dig into it and make sure that we are teaching our children what they should be learning. It is, like they said, up to the parents, the teachers, the administrators. They know best what our children should be learning, but we are there to provide oversight. Thank you. Rich?
Okay, I agree with Bob, Trish, and Tom, but on top of that, I would like to have a little more sunlight to the process and after it's implemented, so parents can always have access to the lesson plans and see what materials are being presented to our kids. And if something is not worthy to be in front of our kids, there's a better process to eliminate that or discuss it if it needs to be removed. But total sunlight on the curriculum, total sunlight on lesson plans, and everything that's presented to our children.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that you see that those questions were pretty phenomenal questions. So, Christy, I mean, this is a little bit over time, so do you want to say something to end the evening? Or? But first, I did want to just quickly say, we still have to do closing statements. Do you guys want to continue with your closing statements? Okay, so if somebody has to bail, bail, but we'll go with the closing statements. Okay, so we're going to start at the end with your 2-minute closing statement. Are you ready? She prematurely set herself down.
I'll wait.
Before we actually start the closing statements, I do want to thank you guys again, the candidates, for taking time away this evening from your families. I do appreciate it. I'd also like to thank, again, the Wildwood Middle PTO for being a great host and for the school. I would also like to thank the communications department. Mary and Carl, thank you very much for always being there for us and helping us out. And then again, to our students, thank you very much. And it was our honor to have you here tonight.
I'd like to thank again everyone who was involved in putting on this evening. This was a great opportunity for you to hear from us. We've got a great slate here tonight. You've heard from us and where we agree, and you've also heard that we don't agree on everything. On this Ides of March, it now falls to all of you, the voters, to have your say a little less than 3 weeks from now. What do you want to see in your future board of directors? Who do you feel will be best at ensuring Rockwood does whatever it takes to ensure all our students reach their potential? I bring over 40 years of leadership and management experience to this race. I would like the opportunity to serve the Rockwood School District and the Rockwood community at large as a Board of Education Director. Thank you all for listening. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Rich?
Rockwood. Again, I moved here to Rockwood because of its reputation. But reputation alone does not make it a successful school district. And again, some scores are up, but the math scores are down. And I want to focus on curriculum. As I said before, Rockwood has a lot of great tools. We brought on Dr. Kane just a year ago, and I've heard really good things about what's been happening, and people promoted inside the administration. And then now with the safety plan. I'm really excited about that. But Rockwood has all the tools to be great. And I want to be come on the board to help make Rockwood great again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tricia?
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and thank the Wildwood PTO for hosting us and all you PTO members for being here. Sorry, drew a blank. I stepped up for my children. I stepped up for all of our children. I have served, and I want to continue to serve where it matters most with our children. So, you know, I'm not a public speaker. Might not have answered everything the way I wanted to. I think I could have given my thoughts to Bob, and he could have just spit them out perfectly because he's a very well speaker. But I'm just here as a mom to better serve our kids, and that's what I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. Carrie?
So I want to thank you all in the audience again tonight for being here and taking yet another night away from your families doing PTO. I know how that feels. But I also want to thank my husband and my son. They've sacrificed a lot. My 2 sons, but my 1 son that's living here, they've sacrificed a lot. I'm very proud to be a product of this district. And I believe it's one of the best districts in the country. And when I say I'm for the kids, it truly comes from my heart. I want our school district to continue to provide the top-notch education we've consistently worked to deliver to our kids each and every year, where all students have a safe and secure learning environment. My entire adult life, I've been focused on the kids here in Rockwood. As a classroom teacher and as a school volunteer, my focus is on our students and continues to be on the well-being of our schools and district. As many of you know, I've been negatively targeted by supporters of some of these candidates. Everyone in this room has the power to make it stop. How you choose to react to this negative and illegal campaigning and impact your children's future and the future of our district. We as parents have the opportunity to share the truth about candidates and their character. I cannot urge you all enough as school leaders to talk to your friends, to talk to your neighbors, your coworkers, and family members, to get out and vote. This election is nonpartisan because school boards are supposed to be about local control. It's time that we change the narrative and negativity in our district and model positive behavior. I'm for the kids. It's who I am. It's who I've always been, and I will continue to do it as your next BOE director.
Thank you, Carrie. And Tom?
Those were great questions tonight. Thank you. Also, thank you to Dr. Suggs and Wildwood Middle for hosting and the PTO President's Forum to give us the opportunity to talk about issues that are important to the students, parents, teachers, and Rockwood as a whole. As a former board member, I was able to gain valuable experience and insights on how the Board of Education and the district work together to accomplish the goals of providing a superior education to the children of Rockwood. I want to continue to be a common sense voice and resource of the parents, teachers, students, and members of the community. Rockwood will continue to focus on student achievement for all students, ensure that all facilities provide a safe learning environment for students and staff, policies and regulations, and maintain responsible fiscal management and asset oversight. I am a firm believer in public education and entrust Rockwood with the education of my daughters and your children. Help me secure Rockwood's future and vote for me on April 4th. I'm number 2 on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And Lynn?
Thanks again to the President's Forum and Wildwood Middle for hosting this event. I'm going to close with this. I guess I'll close the evening, actually. When I say academic excellence in a safe and caring learning environment for all students, I mean all students. I am the right person to lead this district. I have experienced Rockwood as a parent, grandparent, professional educator, and a board member. I have more knowledge and experience in the area of teaching and learning than my fellow candidates combined. I have supported students receiving special education, general education, and gifted education, pre-K to age 21. I have led state and national implementation of multi-tier systems of support for all students. I know budget development, I understand quality instruction, and how to manage a large district. I have connections and leadership experiences across our region. Most importantly, though, I am here for every student. This includes the National Merit Scholar and the first grade girl in the back of the room who's too shy to say she doesn't understand, and the student who just missed a CCL cutoff by 1 point in his board, and the student who requires adaptive devices for communication or mobility, and the student who feels like they do not belong. The list could go on and on. All must be valued. I will work hard, tirelessly, for our Rockwood students. Thank you very much.
Lynn, thank you again. Thank you again to all of you for being here. And I do have 2 quick announcements. Our last 2 events